Yes, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jack Farmer, and this is the Evolution of Movies show. But I'm not alone. I am here with the man with the cool masculinity of Kevin Costner, Andy Rossi, and the man who has a voice as iconic as Whitney Houston, James Shippey. How you fellas doing today?
Great now. Look at that.
What an intro.
Thank you, Jack.
High praise indeed. You guys got to live up to it now, though. Andy, you need to have that cool masculinity the whole time. And James, we need to hear you serenade us throughout.
Of course. There's going to be a little unrequited thing between me and Andy today.
No problem there.
Right?
Yes. I want you guys looking at each other like the Brady Bunch intro the whole time through the screens here. For people who are new to the show, this is how the show works. We watch movies and we talk about them, and there's not really much more to explain than that, other than the part with how we pick the movies. And what we do is we always pick a movie that came out 1 year after the last movie we watched. So we started with a movie in 1990, then in 1991, and now 1992, which means next week we go to 1993. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's talk about the here and now. And by that, I mean, let me take you back to 1992. Theaters are graced with movies like Encino Man, Batman Returns, Three Ninjas, Captain Ron, and Under Siege. But we're not talking about any of those. We're watching Mick Jackson's tour de force, The Bodyguard, a movie that sees a pop star with a stalker that only one man can stop. The Bodyguard, Frank Farmer. The name is why I selected the movie, and that's it. His last name is Farmer, so I'm on board. James, thoughts on 1992, and what did you expect from The Bodyguard going into it?
First of all, Jack, I did not know there was going to be a Three Ninjas reference. All right. That was my jam as a kid. So I haven't even thought of that movie since I was a kid.
Were you a tum-tum guy, a Colt guy, or was it Rocky?
I can't even remember the characters.
Do you remember the song? Do you remember the Rocco Loves Emily song?
I don't remember any of it. I just remember there was a big movie. That's all I remember. So,
can you sing the song, Andy?
I think that's all it is. Rocco loves Emily. Rocco loves
Emily. That sounds like something you would do at that age.
Right?
I remember the key takeaway of Three Ninjas is don't get in a fight you can't win, which kind of sounds like what a bully would say.
Or Lionheart.
Or Lionheart, right?
Right.
This is a great pick, Jack. I must say, and I think out of the three movies we've picked so far, this seemed like the most cinematic movie we've seen, and I don't remember it being that way as a kid. We'll obviously get into the soundtrack, which I think is the thing that brings back all the memories and the feels. I mean, and it's kind of a bittersweet movie because it's Whitney was just amazing in this film. I think it's her first starring role, and she just pops off the screen. And obviously it's deliberate. She's supposed to be a superstar, which she was in real life. Mm-hmm. But I mean, what a great first performance and great chemistry between her and the always smooth Kevin Costner / Frank Farmer. So I thought it was a great film. It was much better than I remembered.
Yeah, the voice and the singing, she's so amazing. Just the GOAT, I think, when it comes to singing and music. Andy, going into this one, 1992, and of course, your thoughts before getting into it. What were you expecting, and what did you expect to see?
Yeah, kind of similar to what James was saying. We see Whitney at her peak, which was great to see, but also kind of sad. And Costner right in his heyday of what Dances with Wolves, and then Field of Dreams was around that time. Bull Durham, so he was already killing it. I was watching it and thinking, I've never seen this movie. I think I've just seen so many music videos of Whitney Houston singing I Will Always Love You and I Want to Run to You and all those songs that I'm like, I don't think I've actually seen the movie. I think I've just seen the music videos. So for me, it was great because I'm like, oh, this is almost brand new to me. I don't think I've seen this. It didn't seem familiar.
I was trying to remember, and maybe you guys can help me with this. Were those songs made for The Bodyguard, or were they from her songs already and they put it in The Bodyguard?
I mean, that's a great question. I was looking this up. This was on the soundtrack. you know, and I was looking this up this morning. This soundtrack was like, I mean, it sold millions of records. I mean, it was a huge hit. It came out a week before the actual movie came out. The commercial performance, I mean, this soundtrack sold, it was like in debut number 2 on a Billboard 200 charts, like right away. And, you know, selling 292,000 copies by its second week. You know, by its 5th, 6th week, it already sold 1 million copies. So,
there are so many singles on there that I think this is such an iconic song throughout. They play a song, I Want to Run to You, and of course the big one at the end. But there's just tons of music throughout this. And like I said, it seemed like, wow, this is like a greatest hits album almost for Whitney Houston.
I mean, big hits. I mean, I Want to Run to You, I'm Every Woman. I had that going in my head all this morning. Don't
Queen of the Night as well.
Queen of the Night.
Yeah.
You know, and of course, I Will Always Love You.
All these songs, by the way, totally embarrassing to get caught singing along to, but it happens. As you're driving out to Palm Springs, Queen of the Night. Speaking of driving out to Palm Springs, I just want to thank everyone who is watching this video or listening to the podcast after it airs. Again, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and as well as Apple Podcasts. We're getting anywhere and everywhere we can go to help the show grow. I hate to do it, but I got to ask if you could give us a like, leave a comment, subscribe, share with your friends. That's how the show grows. That's how we get more viewers. And that's how we start raking in the big bucks, right, fellas? That's what it's all about, the money. Speaking of money, let's talk about this main character for a little bit. Let's talk about old Frank Farmer, starring Kevin Costner, as mentioned, coming off of Dances with Wolves, Robin Hood, and went on to do movies like Waterworld and Tin Cup, playing Frank Farmer, a former CIA Secret Service agent who is now a bodyguard for hire. And some guys just ooze charisma, but frankly, I don't think Frank Farmer did. I thought his charisma was sealed up tight as he played a hard-nosed, straightforward sentinel. I like the guy Frank Farmer. I wasn't feeling a ton of charisma from this guy, though. James, I know you were a big fan of his smooth moves, but Andy, let's get to you first. How did you feel about Frank Farmer, the character in this movie?
Oh, man, I loved him. Like, I wrote that he was very, very subtle, like with his humor. And when he sneaks into the house and he just goes by, he says his name's Henry Ford and then Edison, Alexander Graham Bell. I'm just like, that's so stupid. But he thinks he's so clever. You know what I mean? He reminded me a lot of those early Bruce Willis movies, like with Die Hard and pretty much everything that Bruce Willis was doing, where he's just kind of got this cool swagger about him and just like kind of makes others just look kind of foolish because he's got it down. I love the character. I didn't know how great he was in this movie, but he was excellent.
Yeah, when I say he wasn't oozing charisma, I mean, like, I think of like The Rock when I think of charisma, and guys who just have a way they talk and an energy when they talk, where he was very, to your point, very like not soft spoken, but very short on words, so to speak, where he would, if you asked him a question, give you very short answers. But James, talk to me before we get into all the nitty gritty of the actual movie. Tell me about Frank Farmer and what you thought about Kevin Costner and the character.
Yeah, I thought, I think the best way to put it about his character, he's kind of, when they went to go see that Yojimbo movie, I don't know who the maker of it is, but I just kept thinking of like Akira Kurosawa. I have to look up who directed the movie they went, but his way, the way he kind of approached stuff was like a way of a samurai, right? At a certain point in the film, they have a samurai sword, and he's very like centered how he deals with people. So you even see sometimes in like fight scenes and stuff, he's very calm. He never got too high or too low, and which was always important for the job. You know, he has to be, he can't show too much emotion because he's there to protect the client. But you know, him developing that strong relationship with Rachel, we kind of saw his softer side. honestly, a character like this, I mean, if you're sitting next to your wife, your girlfriend, or whoever, your companion, they're just going to be like oozing. You can't help but love Frank Farmer.
Right.
Because not only is he a protector, but he's really centered and he feels confident in his own skin. And I think that's very attractive to people. And that's probably what Rachel, because he wasn't Rachel's a huge superstar and Frank's not, he's there to do a job. He's not starstruck by her. And, he's there to drive the plot of the story. I thought it was great.
To James's point with the samurai and the sword, I love we first meet Frank Farmer. He's throwing knives in the backyard. That's like how we meet him. He's literally in the backyard throwing knives.
You guys don't do that?
Well, yes, but I didn't know everyone did.
Yeah.
So speaking of, let's go ahead and start breaking down this movie. Act 1. After another successful title defense as the baddest bodyguard on the block to kick things off, we learn that Farmer doesn't stay in one spot for long because it makes his feet fall asleep. That said, a guardian's work is never done, so Fool's grandpa tells him Whitney Houston, and you can't tell me this wasn't Whitney Houston, needs a bodyguard, and Frank negotiates for a whopping $3,000 a week and says he'll throw his knives wherever he damn well pleases. So Frankie goes to Hollywood and sneaks into Scarface's mansion by outsmarting a security guard who probably got fired over an intercom that looks like it's been hotwired before finding his new client and arguing with her about doing things his way. Whitney confidently agrees and promises never to change her mind on the subject before Frank gets a quick rundown of the situation with the stalker, and we get a quick peek of the stalker writing a little love note. James, we'll start with you. This is a lot kind of starting. We're seeing that Frank is a very highly wanted bodyguard. Now we also see just how big of a star Whitney Houston is in this. Rachel is her character name. And that there's some danger involved. How do you like the setup of this movie so far and where we're at?
Well, look, man, like you said, the $3,000 a week. I mean, I'm like, yo, get the bag, Frank. Just get the bag. Because, you think about inflation, $3,000 back then. I mean, that's some good money.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
This movie, like a lot of, classic films, I think it starts off great. I mean, you see what he's about, that he's willing to risk his life for danger, as he apprehends a guy when it comes to the politician trying to be assassinated. And then he comes to the house where Whitney is. And as Andy pointed out, he's coming there using all these pseudonyms. And I never thought about it like that, Andy. I honestly thought when it was first, I was like, oh, well, these must be the names he's supposed to give them. I wasn't catching that. Oh. But he's testing out to see how low the security is here. And no one's paying any attention. There's a lot of, I don't know if soft targets is the right word, but there's a lot of openings there. But I mean, it's very magnetic because he comes in, it looks like there's a video being made, and you see Rachel from behind kind of not giving orders, but she's kind of just comfortably, like kind of shooting the shit with all her people. And, once Frank comes in, they're like sizing each other up. And it's a great intro because right away, Farmer's like, I don't think this is the right place for me to be. Like, he's like, no, this isn't my jam. But he's convinced by, I believe, Bill Cobb, as you said, our guy.
Yeah.
He's so great.
Fool's grandpa. That's
Fool's grandpa.
I was so excited to see him.
Yeah, me too. And I didn't know that was the 6 degrees right there.
Again, proving that all these movies are still interconnected. They share a universe.
Nice. He's great too, because he's only in there for like a certain amount of time, and he has a line that just made me laugh just while we're talking about him. He just says very seriously, he just looks at Kevin Costner. He's like, someone came in and masturbated on this bed. Oh my God. And I'm like, Bill Cobb's shouldn't be talking. He just seems like the nice grandpa, like for him to be saying that.
Well, it's very matter of fact.
Yeah. Well, Andy, let me ask you kind of about this setup. Again, we're basically seeing here, they're trying to tell us that Frank Farmer is a badass in the beginning, and he knows his stuff. We also see that, to James's point, this is a very easy place to get to if you're trying to sneak in, because he basically does. And we also see that Whitney Houston here, and it's going to be very difficult to not call her Whitney Houston throughout this, that she's very independent. She's very strong-willed. She's a leader, and it's hard. She's someone who's not going to take change very easily, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. And it was great seeing her in this role too, because she was just, I feel like this was like right at her peak of this stardom. Like, I mean, she was big, but I think just like, as we talked about the soundtrack, just her like exploding after this. So it was really great seeing her, and her outfits are amazing. Like in like every scene. I mean, we'll talk about it in a bit, where she's like a futuristic cyborg or something in that one scene. Yeah. But one thing I will have to say is, like, when we meet Whitney, we also meet her team. I really liked a lot of these characters, like the guy that he makes like the chauffeur later on. Also the publicist. Oh, I was trying to like solve the crime from the very beginning, and I'm like, it is him.
He definitely was guilty.
He's got like the sucker. He's like sucking on a blow pop, and then he says something to Kevin Costner. He says like, he's like, yeah, Reagan got shot, and then Kevin Costner says, not on my watch. I don't know why. That was great. It's such like a skeevy, like perfect, I thought, character for, you know, like this kind of weirdo publicist with Whitney.
Yeah, the publicist, I believe his name was Cy, was fun fact, he's actually the son of Stephen Dorff and Christian Slater. So
the love child, right?
But
totally.
I was watching that and I was thinking, like, it's weird how we forget things, because they did keep mentioning that Reagan got shot, and you forget that back in 92, that was very recent news that it would be worth mentioning. But now I was thinking, yeah, but that happened decades ago. Who cares? Why do you guys keep bringing it up?
He lived. What's the problem?
He's fine. Yeah. Very interesting there, how time passes. But speaking of time passing, Frank Farmer hires the driver to be his human meat shield while spending a buttload of money renovating a Hollywood mansion, then puts in overtime analyzing the love notes and realizes that this dude might be dangerous. So dangerous, in fact, Frank Farmer practically hockey checks a 7-year-old girl outside of a restaurant, and everyone says he's crazy. But an SUV starts chasing them down, and Whitney's main takeaway is, why are we making this so hard on my stalker? Which, as an egomaniac, I kind of get, but it's a change in tune from when she agreed to let Frank run the show earlier. So much so that for some reason she takes him to Goodwill to berate him publicly. But I think Frank Farmer was into it, because he was binge watching her music videos with the volume so loud she could hear it from across the yard. Whitney goes to a premiere and finds out the stalker was in her house, and she got mad. But that means it was probably a good idea they didn't also mention the masturbating thing. So
no, you don't want to mention that.
But maybe if they did mention it, she wouldn't go back on stage, which is another of many flip-flops, as she wants more protection, but then decides she doesn't need more protection for the show when her team of the worst bodyguards ever get ransacked, and the whole place goes nuts before Frank Farmer engages kill mode and storms the stage, hot stepping all over everyone and letting us know that Frank Farmer ain't nothing to fuck with. He gets home and eats an apple like a badass with a knife, and then beats the shit out of the Dumb and Dumber guy. We end this whole thing with Garth from Wayne's World building a shrine to Stephanie, to Whitney.
Garth is so good. I was thinking
that is good.
The security guard from The Last Dance with Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're just missing the mustache.
And then I also wrote Andy Dick meets Doc Brown.
You mean this guy?
All are correct.
Are you talking about me? So, Andy, we'll let you take first crack at this. We're kind of seeing more of Frank trying to establish control. We're also seeing Whitney not wanting to change her ways, and then we're also seeing that there's a problem brewing.
Yeah, so much good stuff going on. You mentioned him tracking down the car that was following them. he's faster than the car. When he's running through the mansion, he's at full speed, like with the car. Then he jumps to try to land on the car.
White Usain Bolt. Okay, like just like dodging shrubs. I mean, this car's got to at least be pushing 30, 40 at least.
Yeah. He's like the T1000.
Yeah, I was amazed. And I also wrote in my notes, like, I don't know when, it was sometime between that and when he's hypnotized by the Run to You video. He's just like very into the Run to You video. I wrote, he does kind of look like Jack Farmer. I thought Frank Farmer looked like there was a little similarities there.
Some relation.
And well, I do look like that when I'm watching I Want to Run to You
nice
video.
Nice.
I makes sense. And then like we talked about, I put Whitney was kind of look like a space Cleopatra when she's performing the Queen of the Night. That outfit is amazing.
Boom.
Oh yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah, no, that's great.
The Queen of the Night.
Which has aged well. I didn't like that song that much when I was younger, but it was jamming when I've been watching it this week.
Oh, yeah.
It's really great. It's aged well. It's a great song.
Oh, yeah. All these songs age really well.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But James, how about you? What'd you think?
As Jack said, we're seeing kind of the back and forth. And, in some instance, it could be a little frustrating because she recognizes she needs help, but then she doesn't. But you also got to remember she's a diva, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but she's like, for all intents and purposes, she's the most popular singing artist in pop music at the time, which is so meta because in real life she was too. So obviously she wants her freedom. She wants to kind of interact with fans. She doesn't want to be limited, but she doesn't have all the information about how bad it is that someone's stalking her. It's a lot of that back and forth, but you need that obviously for conflict. She can't just be like, okay, you take over, protect me. I'm going to be a recluse now while we find the bad guy. She's got to keep putting herself in these situations to be caught. And I don't know if the part already came. I thought was kind of funny is when she was shopping. I think when she was shopping and Farmer was there and he's like, look, I'm not here to serve you. I'm here to protect you. And they were having this kind of little cute back and forth with each other. It
was interesting to your point. Yeah, when they were shopping, like I said, it looked like they were in the Goodwill. I was like, why is she in this? Like, why isn't she somewhere fancy? It didn't look like a very nice place for someone who's the biggest star in the world. But I also want to say,
no paparazzi either. Like, I don't know, maybe that's so like, and we're going to talk about another scene later. It's like, hold on, this is the biggest star in the world, and no one's hounding her for an autograph.
Yes, and I know what scene you're talking about, and we will get there. But you made a good point about it being meta because not only, it's about it's even more than just a pop star being in a pop star movie, but it was that she's also, the movie's about her winning an Oscar for a soundtrack to a movie while she was in real life winning Oscars for a soundtrack to a movie. So this was probably one of the first like meta movies, I think. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I'm not a historian, but is there a movie from before 1992 that really was almost self-referential?
Not that I can think of, but for some reason I can't get past, you mentioned the Dumb and Dumber guy where Kevin Costner is eating an apple only a way that Frank Farmer can do with the knife. Right. I really want to try that and hopefully not hurt myself. But then, he's about to throw a knife. Like when he's eating that apple, I'm like, come on. I thought maybe once he ate it, he was just going to toss it into the wall. But in comes Dumb and Dumber guy who kept fighting him. And I'm like, you are losing badly. And he just kept coming after him.
It happens all the time in these movies. These guys, and we've talked about this, Jack. You remember the whole thing where a guy gets in a bar fight, he gets socked in the nose and is bleeding, there's blood coming everywhere. And he always says, you broke my nose, man. He always says that and then still tries to attack the guy.
Yeah. I learned my lesson very quickly. I mean, I feel like one little tussle and him getting the advantage, I'd say, okay, you're the guy.
You win.
They need to take a note from our first podcast where remember the guys, the street toughs that rough up Van Damme?
Street toughs.
The new edition guys, you said. Remember the one guy is like,
right.
I'll see you later. And he just like
bounces. Oh, yeah. This your lucky day, punk. This your lucky day, punk. That was his line. He's the biggest guy, too. That was so funny. He had on like the little wife beater, cock diesel, and he's the one that ran the quickest, which I thought was beautiful.
To your guys' point, though, something that stood out to me is that they show a montage of him training the driver, but he never actually trains the actual bodyguards how to do their job. Wouldn't you think if you're going to try to train people to be better at protecting Whitney Houston, you would start with the people whose actual job title is to protect Whitney Houston?
Like, I mean, that's true.
Why wasn't he teaching Dumb and Dumber how to drive?
I know, but this is the thing. When soon as he walks in, and that's the thing you do. You check the room, right? So you're checking the exits. You're also checking the characters. Cy, he's a first of all, I don't know what PR person is like that. This dude's such a sleazeball.
I know.
Right.
Whitney's got some very sketcy people around her. Everyone was a suspect in this movie. Let's be very clear. Everyone in that house, and then obviously the Dumb and Dumber guy. Just kind of, it's almost like he's not a literal bodyguard. He's kind of there to enjoy. He's a big kind of dumb guy. He's kind of maybe lovable, but he's there to enjoy the fruits of being, protecting the famous superstar. So, and the car driver, which he did, you must say the car driver, wasn't he very charismatic for just like a chauffeur?
Yes.
Like he kind of popped off the screen too. He's always smiling, nice looking, just charismatic dude. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna take it with you, because the guy was always curious and always hanging around Costner. So I think that's probably what it was. Let me give you a job to do.
I was actually surprised he wasn't in more movies, because I thought he was great. I was actually surprised he wasn't in this movie more, because he was doing great.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah, he was good.
Every time we saw him.
I wonder if old K. Costner was like, "This is my movie, kid. I don't like you stealing my scene.
Keep it down a little."
Keep it down.
Oh, and I'm sorry, mentioning kids, the boy Fletcher, the cutest little kid, Whitney's son or Rachel's son, this is really a nice little thing there.
It was nice, but I thought he was kind of a creep, always eavesdropping on everyone. like he'd walk out and he'd just be like out in the bushes, like, I heard what's going on. Like, dude, weird. Go live your life.
And he's always playing with that boat. I feel like the poor guy. It's like, give him some other toys.
But now that we see
give him a PlayStation, even though it's 92. I don't care.
I know, give him a PS2.
Nintendo.
But now I'm thinking, now the boat makes sense. It was a precursor. I mean, now that you just mentioned it. So
it's funny. Yeah, I didn't even realize that. Well,
you said it.
There is a point to be made with that. I have some bones to pick with the storytelling once we get to that part. But speaking of storytelling, suddenly Whitney is thirsty for your boy Frank Farmer and gets a little flirty. And let me tell you, these two had the chemistry of toothpaste and orange juice. And they have a very unconvincing date where no one realizes the biggest star in the world is sitting next to them. And she hears the song she's going to rip off at the end of the movie. And that was good enough to get her to go home with Frank, where he literally cuts her clothes off with a samurai sword, which is what we did before Netflix and chill. He wants to hit it and quit it, but she wants some afternoon delight, which flips her flop again. And she puts him to work in Miami, where she works her pipes like a Super Mario brother, as we get another amazing song that brings this milkshake's boys to the yard, as Bizarro Frank takes Whitney to somewhere more private. And we get what is now known as the burn of 1992, when a woman approaches Farmer and says, I've been watching you from across the room. And Frank fires back, why don't you go back and keep watching?
My favorite line. I love that so much.
Bizarro Frank gets a little too handsy as the Dumb and Dumber guy saves the day. Whitney gets more angry as Frank enjoys his third gallon of orange juice and then relieves some sexual tension by beating up a dude who's smoking in the kitchen, which must
a very
have
steamy kitchen. It's so steamy in that kitchen.
So that got Whitney all hot and bothered, because she flops her flip and is now begging him to protect her once more. This was one of my favorite little bits here. Again, Big Orange Juice clearly sponsored this movie, because they drank a ton of it. James, this was kind of classic middle of the movie. We're kind of seeing how the first time things were new. Now it's like things are repeating, and we're starting to see the new shine wear off a little bit between these two.
Yeah, that's true. And like I said, a lot of this is going towards after they make love to each other, right? But like I said, at that bar, first of all, I don't know what bar that is in Los Angeles. It looks like a bar like in Texas where I grew up, right? But maybe that's why. Maybe they went to like Lancaster or somewhere.
Yeah.
They just drove all the way from Beverly Hills, like a couple hours away where no one would know anybody. But yeah, I kept thinking of that. You mentioned the samurai sword. I kept thinking, wow, I wonder if she's going to be pissed because I don't know how much that scarf is worth. When he cut it in half.
She got it at the Goodwill. It's fine.
Yeah, she got it at the Goodwill. But just to recap, the movie that they went to see was Yojimbo. And it wasn't an Akira Kurosawa movie when, it's about a guy that arrives in a small town where there's competing crime lords for supremacy. And they both try to hire this person as a new a bodyguard. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Oh, that is a very interesting reference in the movie. Easter egg.
Definitely. And you remember you said he had seen it, you remember the whole big thing. How many times you seen this movie? He's like, 62 or 65 times. I thought everything in Miami was great. We're going to talk about it. What is it? Portman? Is that the dude's name?
That's the guy's name. I call him Bizarro Frank.
Man. And there's some stuff there. I mean, there's some questionable stuff about his character and how he ends up being who he is, but we'll get to that later. But I thought it was great tension because at this point he realizes we shouldn't have slept together and he's trying to pull back. And it's weird. It's a reversal of roles because usually it's the other way around. Normally a woman, she'll sleep with a guy and she realizes, hey, we shouldn't have done this because of A, B, and C. But this time it was the guy around and, hey, we need to stop. We need to chill. And she's just pissed at him for the rest of the movie. And letting him know her ire, especially when they're in Miami. And like I said, Portman, we all see the guy because he really stands out. I guess he's the other Secret Service guy who becomes a very important character. I remember my wife turned to me. She's like, he's not that good looking. She's like, why is she going with him? He's not Kevin Costner.
Poor guy. He's just doing his best.
I know he's doing his best. Everyone can't be Kevin Costner.
His hair definitely hadn't upgraded from the 80s, though. It was still in 80s mode there. You make such a good point about Frank Farmer being sort of a samurai and being centered, because you're right. Nothing ever gets to him, and he's always very in control of every situation. Even this date, I mean, he's got the biggest star in the world saying, I want to go on a date with you. And he's like, cool, we're going to go see my favorite movie and then go to my bar. You're basically he did what he was going to do anyways, probably.
And then my place afterwards.
And then my place afterwards.
And then I'm going to leave you afterwards. No relationship.
No. Yeah. As you can see, if you're on the video version, you can see next to James Shippey's head, never fall in love. I think. Now, am I crazy? I'll be honest. I love this movie, but I did not feel a connection between these two. Am I the only one that felt that way?
Especially, it seemed like they got together too fast. She was just kind of saying, I don't need you. And then suddenly was all into him. And then he's just like, I can't be with you. This is business. And I'm just like, well, come on, man.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
It's Whitney.
Yeah.
It's Whitney, come on. I think because for some reason, maybe also he seemed a bit older than her. And I could just be wrong. They might be the same age, but maybe it's just because I've seen Kevin Costner more age. And so now I think of him as an older guy. And so it felt more like he'd be they wouldn't be a connection. So for some reason, there was always a block for me. I was like, I don't feel like they would ever actually date. They don't seem like they would like each other that much.
But the big thing is, once again, he's not caught up in her celebrity and he's not kissing her tuchus like everyone else does. And that is an elixir for women. They love that stuff. They love a good sense of humor. They don't even care about looks. They kind of do.
James, your vocabulary is killing it today. The ire, the elixir, the tuchus.
I'm holding back. Trust me. I can break out all the SAT words.
Just grade A content with the vocabulary here today. Let's continue on. We're going to go to Act 4. They go camping at Frank's dad's place, and Frank is rocking that year's hottest set of mom jeans after a very uncomfortable meal where Whitney's sister asks, why stop at one sister when you can fuck them both? And I thought, that's a valid question, but Frank implies He only wants to be with the star of the family. The next morning, Frank knocks Fletcher off a boat and Whitney flips again before the boat blows up and she flops back. That night, drowning her sorrows, Solange tells Ballpark Frank that it was her who hired the killer, to absolutely no one's surprise. So Frank points a gun in her face and says, "Don't move." She does, though, and the killer finds her and says, "Snitches get stitches," before killing her and running off into the night. While following the assassin, Frank literally shuts his eyes and shoots blindly into the woods. The next morning, we realize Garth is sending creepy notes, but as Mari would say, he is not the killer. So this is where things start to get really big in the movie, and we're sort of getting towards that climax. James, we lose a sister. We see the boat blow up. Let's kind of walk me through where you're at in the movie at this point.
Well, I mean, at this point, every time we see the sister, she's just, some siblings, especially maybe if they're that close in age, it's a competition. Mm-hmm. And we first saw that when I think she was saying like the Jesus loves me. She's singing like the gospel song by the pool. And she sounds good. She's holding the note. And then Whitney comes out and just takes over the song.
Really singing.
Yeah. And you could just see the look in the sister's eyes. Like, it's the look she's been doing the whole movie. Just hate, just a lot of side eye. And once she sees that Frank is interested in Rachel, it all comes together. I just really don't get the trouble of how she went through trying to hire someone to kill or maim her sister. There's really like no payoff there. Like the true why. Okay, what? She's jealous of her fame. I may have missed that.
And she just went to a bar. She said, went to a bar. What bar? Yeah. I don't remember.
What bar? And this is where the questionable stuff. And once again, I'm not even going to say his name when we find out who the assassin is. How? You know what I mean? Like, really? Like, what is this? It almost doesn't make sense. So we don't really see a good motivation for it being that. But I think, as you said, the one thing I kept thinking when they were at Frank's dad's house, I was like, man, his dad is loaded. Yeah. This is the vacation home. I mean,
he was making more than $3,000 a week. I'll tell you that much.
Oh yeah, definitely more than $3,000 a week. I mean, his dad had a compound, but like that scene, that whole kind of scene with the dad and us getting to know Frank and who he was. His dad was so cool, and that's where you see you got it from. You remember they're just kind of eating, and he's telling stories about Frank as a boy. You know, how he didn't discipline him, but Frank was into football, and then they were playing chess, and then Fletcher.
The chess game was a 3-year game. How boring is that? Like, and they're all like crowded around watching him play chess. Oh, we've been playing for 3 years. If I heard that, I'd be like, I'm gonna do something else.
Peace out.
You guys have been doing this for 3 years.
It's funny how back then they thought that made it seem like it was such a thoughtful and intense game, but now with movies like the Queen or shows like the Queen's Gambit coming out, where they're like, yeah, I've played 6 people at the same time and win in an hour.
Yeah,
you're like, oh, these guys must have been morons. They couldn't figure out how to play the game.
Right? Because they have a little kid come in and be like, yeah, this movie right there.
Yeah, just go boop boop boop, done.
Yeah. And the kid hadn't even played chess. That's the beauty of it. Never even played chess. He's a checkers kid.
So, but you make an interesting point about the hiring the killer, because this is another thing. We saw it in Lionheart, and I think maybe this is just an early 90s thing where it feels like they try to give so much backstory to the main character that's unnecessary. Like talking about how Frank was never wanted to be scared, so he'd attack things that made him scared, and how the reason Reagan died was because he was at his mom's funeral that day. He took the day off, and that was the day that Reagan got shot, and it's haunting him and all this other stuff. But then when it comes to the main crux of the story, why did you hire this killer? Or how did this happen? She's like, I was jealous. I don't know. I was at a bar. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Andy, as far as story beats go, I know you're a writer and you make your own movies. Tell me about the way the story was told during all this.
It was so great. Like we've been talking about, there's just so much to unpack. And I loved how right when we got to Frank's dad's house, like I think the dad said something like, yeah, ever since the Reagan thing. And then like, I'm like, there it is again. Like they just kept mentioning this little Reagan thing. And then I, like you kind of talked about already, they talked about what had happened with that. And I just love how you kind of got these little pieces. Then you kind of got the nice payoff at the dad's house. I did want to mention too, was we kind of talked about it. So I'm watching and Fletcher is in the boat and he's like cruising on the boat. And I'm like, good for him. He figured out how to do the boat. He's been playing with boats. He looks so excited on the boat. I'm like, it looks like he's in pretty good control. And then the Flash, Frank Farmer, so fast again, just tackles him. And I'm like, what was that about? He like tackles him into the water. I'm like, the kid was just having fun on the boat. And I was kind of mad at Frank Farmer. I'm like, dude, this kid, he can't even take a boat. There's no one around. It like James said, this is a big compound. Like, let him take the boat. Yeah. And I was actually pretty frustrated at Frank. And then all of a sudden, boom, the whole boat explodes. And I'm like, Frank Farmer, always a step ahead.
Does it again. Maybe if he was always a step ahead, he'd figure out how to win that chess game in less than 3 years.
Right.
But this is so. First, I love that you noticed the boats thing though, because that does make sense why the kid was playing with the boat and why he jumped on the boat. Because I didn't notice that at first.
Yeah,
and I was like, okay, that's random. He decided to get on the boat by himself. But this is what bothered me: is Whitney screaming, "He can't swim! He can't swim!" And I'm thinking to myself, he's playing by a pool all day by himself. What do you mean he can't swim? Fletcher is old enough to know how to swim if he plays by the pool every single day by himself, eavesdropping on people having sex.
That's a great point.
Like that to me felt a little, I don't know about all that.
You know what else was great too? During once the sister got shot and Costner's trying to hunt down the shooter, he flips through the window. Did you notice that? Right. He does like a full flip through the window.
Yeah.
I'm just like, Costner had to be like, all right, guys, I know you said that I'm supposed to go through the door or I'm supposed to, run around the house. I'm thinking flip through the window.
It would have been great if he flipped through the window, but then like landed on his back and was just,
and then like Jack said, he closes his eyes to shoot people. Once he's flipped out the window, then he closes his eyes to shoot people.
As a kid, I remember that moment. And as a kid, I remember thinking, it's so cool. He like Jedi Force senses where this guy is. He's such a badass. But now as an adult, I'm like, that's just dangerous. What are you doing?
Just you could have hit a deer or innocent bystander.
Yeah, you can't just shoot wildly into the woods like that with your eyes shut. Come on, like that's dangerous. What if, especially because people are running around? What if Fletcher ran out there? You don't know. Like, what are you doing? You madman! Come on, who's more dangerous? At least the assassin points his gun like a professional.
Jack, you talked about how much orange juice was being drank throughout the film. And after all this kind of happens, the sister and all the madness happens at the house, then you notice Frank has vodka in his orange juice. And I said, okay, now we know. Now this is a tough time for Frank. It's not orange juice. It's vodka and orange juice.
What was with them with the orange juice?
Screwdriver.
It really felt like they were trying to sell orange juice with this movie. Like there was so many parts where they went out of their way to show Frank drinking orange juice and explaining that he drinks orange juice. Was orange juice like a big deal in '92 and I missed it?
You missed it. I don't know. It's so different because obviously he's a guy that doesn't drink. I mean, until that moment. But most of the time, if that's the case, if someone's ordering club soda, tonic, they're ordering the drink adjacent or maybe a cranberry juice. But I don't know. I mean, he's just, he's trying to stay high on his vitamin C.
I mean, I'm not against orange juice. He just seemed like he made it very clear he's an orange juice man. Continuing on, though, after more, you guessed it, orange juice, Frank Farmer proves he's got the magic stick because if he can hit once, he can hit twice. They go to the Oscars and go figure. Whitney changes her mind about how she feels about Frank because she hates him again. And just in time for Bizarro Frank to make a return. And after some chit chat, uses an old fashioned karate chop to take out Joe Mentalino. But It was all for naught as Frank, in epic fashion, runs across the stage and takes a bullet and shoots the bad guy in a story that would be bigger than Sully landing on the Hudson if it happened in real life. Now, with his blood on her hands, Whitney thinks to herself, maybe I do like Frank. After the madness is over, we find Whitney boarding a plane without Frank. Before taking off, however, Fletcher comes to Frank and implies, hey, you hooked up with my mom. Are you going to be my new dad? Before Frank implies, hey, if I stay in the same spot, my feet fall asleep. You know what I'm saying, kid? But just before we think it's over, Whitney runs out of the plane to snag her man, and the credits roll as Frank weirdly watches a priest and I Will Always Love You plays, implying that maybe this is the third movie in a row that we've watched that doesn't actually leave everyone happy in the end. James, we'll let you start. Of course, the big climax at the Oscars and finding out who the killer is and that happy ending.
I'd like to go just a little back after Rachel makes love to Frank after her sister was murdered in cold blood. And it's just like, she's taking this very well. So, I mean, I guess the moral of the story is they weren't that close.
Yeah.
They had different daddies.
Did they even call the police before they hooked up? Like, the body was still downstairs.
I know. They just threw like a sheet over it, you know. And said, oh, we'll get to that in the morning. You know, the police station's too far away. You know, it's probably closed. We'll get to that in the morning.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this.
She's not going anywhere.
Yeah, she ain't going nowhere. Right? That's cool. Put her in the ice. Put her in the snow outside.
Yeah. You're right. Whitney had zero like remorse or feelings about that whole thing. She said, okay, time to move on with my life.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. I loved you. And I'm going to need a new babysitter.
Right. That's why she ran back to Frank.
Yeah, exactly. That's what that's about, you know. But look, guys, once again, you get to this thing, and obviously it's the climax. And as you say, as meta as it is, it's the Academy Awards. And I kept thinking, like, oh, wow. You know, you look at everything pre and post COVID. I was thinking of seeing all those people in the audience, like, wow, when are we going to have that again? I'm sure it'll be sooner than later. But it was just so many people packed in, and old school Academy Awards.
Yeah.
I did have a problem, and I'm pretty sure anyone does. I just don't see what Portman's like, why was he now also a hired contract killer? I just want to be clear here. He was a Secret Service agent along with Farmer. And then I guess he stayed a Secret Service agent, but he also like hangs out at the bars, has sex with, I don't know. This dude's just like all around for me. So I don't get it. Now he's a cameraman a pseudo cameraman, and he's here to kill Rachel on camera. And no one's going to catch that.
And he's doing it because the sister paid him, right? Am I following the story?
That's it. And he's got the whole red dot on her face.
She's dead. She's dead. So he could just be like, yeah, I did it.
Yeah.
She already paid
he already got his
right?
money.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the red dot's a good point. Like, it's the Oscars. Like, people are going to notice there's a red dot on. Like, imagine Beyonce walking up to the stage and there's a red dot on her head. No one's going to notice that like something's going on. And then when he shoots her, like even if it goes according to plan, like everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, nothing we can do about it now."
Yeah. Well, like he's going to get caught. But I thought was so crazy was, maybe the special effects. I guess Frank comes up and shoots him. And like shoots the camera, and the camera like it's like kind of like the kind of ghetto-esque, you know what I'm talking about, right? The dude's face explodes.
Yeah.
So is there like dynamite?
I was wondering.
Is there like explosives inside of that camera? Like it's like a multi-camera, like kind of like the iPhone before that. Like it has explosives in it. It shoots. It also does little laser dots. Like if you're trying to find something on a wall.
Well, if you notice right off camera, there was the girl from Lionheart. She got blood on her face and she was turned on by it.
Oh, yeah. Just breathing hard.
Hard. She's like,
or did she like lick the blood off or the dude's brain matter off of her?
she licks it off. She loved it. But that camera also, like, who's buying that camera at the Academy Awards? This little like toy camera as he's holding the gun up with it was the funniest look.
And what the other cameramen, weren't they kind of just like, wait, who's this guy?
Yeah, who's this guy? He's not in the union.
We had
We
rehearsal.
didn't see him at the rehearsal.
Yeah, we had rehearsal all week.
I like how easy that, they make it look like it's just easy to get backstage at the Academy Awards. No one's guarding the door. Frank's the only guy there protecting anybody.
Yeah,
of course.
And the judo chop you mentioned, Jack. Like, I like how it's Frank and it's the Dumb and Dumber guy are in charge, and the judo chop sends the Dumb and Dumber guy back. Yeah, he's out.
A literal open hand chop to the neck, like a comedy, like a bad ninja comedy.
But hold on, did something happen? Because I was a little tired and I was watching it. But the dude had an eye patch on later. Did he chop him an eye too, or
gave him like a Three Stooges eye?
Oh, okay.
Right.
I mean, he must have seriously. I mean, the dude had an eye patch on, like the eye's gone. It's like Slick Rick style.
I didn't get the eye patch either because it looked like. I mean, he must have chopped him hard in the neck because it's so bad the eye popped out.
Yeah, he chopped him so hard in the neck that the eye came out, which seems very samurai.
He looked pretty good with that eye patch, though. I feel like maybe he should have started the movie with it already. It's kind of a good look for him.
That would have been great. Frank wouldn't mess with him if he saw that he had the eye patch. I wouldn't mess with the guy with an eye patch.
We were actually robbed because you mentioned Bruce Willis and all these other because I mean Frank obviously knows martial arts to a certain extent, right? We didn't see him do any kicks. It would have been nice to see him fight, like a fist fight with that dude. I mean, but they didn't have the time to do it. But I mean, obviously this other dude can handle himself physically. So this is very interesting. I wouldn't have mind seeing a fist fight between Frank and
Portman
and animated Frank.
And Jack and James, I thought of you guys because we talked about this, how Lionheart was going to be called Wrong Bet. Whitney Houston, I believe, they say like, I don't remember the context, but she says like, he's my bodyguard. And I'm like, there it is. You guys make a good point though, also about the note, like Frank fights he actually does very little as far as the physical aspects of things. When he does, he goes big, like when he chases down an SUV, but or he sprays people with a doesn't he spray them at the club with a what's it called?
A fire extinguisher?
Fire extinguisher. Yeah.
Which is just letting that, like, it's not a really strong fire extinguisher. I was expecting a little bit more foam or whatever.
I mean, it goes to show too what actors have to go through to make it. Because you can imagine, like, you show up for work and they're like, by the way, Kevin Costner is going to spray you in the face with a fire extinguisher today.
Several times.
You good with that? Yeah, we're going to have to take like 12, do like 100 takes of this of you just getting blasted in the face with a fire extinguisher. No, you're not going to get any credit at the end of the movie because you're not going to have a speaking line. So whatever. I don't know how that works, but it's just
fun. Did mention that this wasn't a happy ending for everyone. Poor Frank. He's like, now, I mean, basically Whitney, they say goodbye and it's beautiful. And she makes, stop the plane, and then she jumps out and kisses him. And it's the most movie-esque kiss. Their faces are just smashing against each other. It's not a real kiss, but that's the movie kiss. But poor Frank, I mean, he's sitting there at, I don't know, the Rotary Club. I don't know where this place is.
Yeah.
And this is like, this poor guy, like, that was not a happy ending.
Yeah.
I kept thinking, like, he probably wishes that bullet would have went 2 inches to the left.
Right.
That boy. That's his fate.
That's why he keeps doing it. He's like, one of these days.
The ending seemed like so incomplete. I'm like, they had to have done like some test audiences for this. And like that run, I've seen that run. Maybe it's in the music video where Whitney runs off the plane. Like James said, you got this movie kiss. It's like the camera's coming around like a 360. End it right there.
Right there.
And just be like, that's it. And then, it cuts to the priest thing, and then Costner's face is all business, and I'm just like, and then they play I Will Always Love You. I'm like, huh? Like if they would have had the spinning kiss, cue I Will Always Love You,
just leave it right there.
But this weird,
because you're right, that was a perfect end. The spinning kiss was like a chef's kiss, perfect end.
Yes.
And I'm not even against them alluding to him in some way, continuing to be a bodyguard for somebody else.
Yeah.
But playing I Will Always Love You with like a priest and him standing behind him watching him is the weirdest visual to end on. Because it makes it look like him and the priest are in love.
Maybe that's what this has always been about. His repressed feelings for his priest. But it's funny you say that, and I don't know, because you remember she kept talking about, and she was alluding in the bar, she's like, "Oh, you listen to these lyrics; they're so depressing." And I know she was they were having this thing about the lyrics of the song, so it obviously makes sense. I mean, it would be perfect for audiences for them to end on that kiss. But the whole point is, I will always love you because we can't be together, right? I'm assuming, right? I haven't looked at the lyrics again. But yes, it's just a visual of him at the Rotary Club with all these people. He was with this. Trust me, this is not going to end well for him. He went from doing the president, well, not doing the president, but he was guarding the president. I mean, who knows? You never know. Yeah. But he was guarding the president. Then he's guarding this famous rock star, pop star, and now he's at the Rotary Club.
Not getting $3,000 a week to go to the Rotary Club.
He ain't getting $3K there.
No,
okay,
no.
He ain't getting $3K. Let's make that very clear.
No. Yeah, so probably a bad ending for him, but let's go ahead and Andy, I want to start with you. I like to give you the challenge every week. Every time we do this show, I give you a specific challenge.
Okay.
And I want to hear your final thoughts on the movie, but I also want to hear and see if you can give us a 6 degrees of separation from Kevin Bacon from this movie.
On the spot?
Let's do it.
Okay. James, you want to work with me on this?
I don't know.
This is pretty tough.
Like we try. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. I don't know.
See. Well, we got to use Kevin Costner first because he's been in a lot of movies. And his name's Kevin Costner, and Kevin Bacon is also a Kevin. I think I did it.
Does that
count? Oh man.
Let's see. Yeah, I think I could do it. All right.
Okay.
Do it.
Kevin Costner was in Field of Dreams, which is with Ray Liotta. Ray Liotta was in Goodfellas with Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
Robert De Niro was in Sleepers with Kevin Bacon.
Attaboy.
Oh, wow.
Attaboy.
That was easier than I thought.
It's uncanny.
It is crazy.
How you do that?
Yeah, and I didn't. Last week, I'll admit, I wrote it down beforehand. This week, Jack caught me by surprise, so that was.
Look at you.
So you did it. So it proves that anything can happen. By the way, Ray Liotta, I always forget, is in Field of Dreams, even though he's like one of the main guys.
Yeah.
He just doesn't seem like a Field of Dreams guy.
No, he doesn't.
No,
that's true.
He doesn't.
I was like, what? Light the Field of Dreams on fire.
Does he kill people and like yell at them?
Does he whack a couple of people?
He throws them in the fields.
So that said, then Andy, just what final overall thoughts on The Bodyguard? 1992's The Bodyguard.
I really enjoyed it. I was kind of disappointed in the ending that we talked about, but I think, to borrow what James said, it was very cinematic. Like, being Whitney Houston in her prime, her outfits, her music kind of brought back like memories of the music, the Bodyguard soundtrack. And then they're at the Oscars and just and Costner, like peak Costner, like it was just very like that was like a movie that was very much like. That's the movie that people were. I don't know how much it made at the box office, but it just seemed like that was a movie, like a blockbuster movie. They had everything you needed, a lot of crazy characters, and really enjoyed it. But yeah, that ending, I think maybe they should just reshoot a quick ending and it'd be a perfect movie.
Not even reshoot, just end it. James, overall thoughts?
The movie, it grossed $411 million worldwide.
Damn.
Ooh, that's
so it was
big.
The second highest grossing film of 1992. But I think seeing this movie, I remember as a kid, it was a big starring vehicle for Whitney. And obviously, I mean, when you think of this movie, there were certain points in the movie where I was like, oh, I remember that from the video. That's kind of the thing. And I mean, these are so many. I mean, there's like an iconic part when she's like, I think I want to run to you. Not I want to run to you, but don't close one more door. I don't want to.
Yeah.
That song. I can't even think of the name of it right now.
I have nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Have nothing. Yes, and there's a certain point when she's singing and she's happy, and you know what I'm talking about. It's that performance in Miami, and it's like you get chills because it's like that's the beauty of music. It's like she was feeling the music, even she's singing it. And I looked it up. Two things. This was more of a this was Costner's movie. Like we were following his character. This movie's more so about him than her, and that's was my surprise. Yeah, of course, right? Yeah, I know, right? Which I know it's called The Bodyguard, not The Superstar, right? But I was still surprised because I really thought it was the other way around, but I don't really remember that movie that much. But the other thing was, this movie came out, she passed away almost 20 years to the day of this movie coming out. This movie came out in November of 92 and she passed away in February. And I just couldn't help but when I was watching it, just thinking about, the sadness of, because even at certain points, you talk about meta, but they were like, hey, if she can't sing, she might as well be gone, or dead, and you think about that. And of course, her voice so powerful, but she ended up losing it in real life. And, you just think about how that would affect her and how that affects anyone. And they lose such a great gift like that. I mean, that's such a God-given gift she got. And how it affects them, especially if you don't have the right people around you to help nurture you, and obviously the personal stuff. But obviously, all the crazy stuff happened after the film in her personal life. But I couldn't help separate the two because it was just a shame. I feel like we lost her too early. But historically speaking, I mean, what a performance by her, and of course Costner. There's 2 movie stars in a film. I think that's basically what you're trying to say, Andy. This is like a movie with 2 movie stars. And that's what made it so cinematic.
Yeah, at like their peak of their superpowers.
Exactly.
Yeah, Whitney, by the way, for my money, the GOAT, the best singer of all time. I think her voice and her singing is unmatched to anyone. Yeah. Especially when you hear, like, when she really lets it go, like with her, like the "I Want to Run to You's," or of course, "I Will Always Love You." I feel like that, like, she just shakes off anyone who wants to try to be a pretender to the throne.
Yeah.
She's so good.
I don't think it's close. Yeah, it was such a gift that she had.
And so that does it for The Bodyguard. I enjoyed getting to go through this again and going through memory lane with it. But 1992 is over. It's time for 1993. And Andy, this is your turn. You get to pick the movie. What movie are we going to watch for 1993?
I got to be honest with you. This was really, really hard. 93. Give it up for 1993.
Shout out 1993.
Just killing it. Just listen to these movies. First off, Bill Cobbs is in Demolition Man. So that was my first thought.
Oh, but that'd be so good, though.
Wow. It's so good. But like I said, 93 was killing it. 2 of my favorite movies, True Romance and Bronx Tale, were both in 1993.
Ooh.
Nice.
And then we also got Jurassic Park was 93.
That one did pretty good.
That was okay.
That was okay.
A small little movie.
And then Cool Runnings, Groundhog Day, Mrs. Doubtfire, Fool is Back, in The Sandlot, and then for Jack Farmer, Sleepless in Seattle. But guess what, fellas? I didn't pick any of those movies. They sound great, don't they?
Of course you did.
So we're going to go with this is a movie that my buddies and I still quote to this day. I didn't see it at the movie theater, but it was kind of controversial because there was a scene in the movie release. There's a scene that got removed and no one's ever seen it. I think you could find it on YouTube. But it's a football movie and it's called The Program.
Oh, wow.
Oh, and I love it.
And so here's the synopsis for The Program. The synopsis, just go see the movie. It says, several players from different backgrounds try to cope with the pressure of playing football at a major university. Each deals with the pressure differently. Some turn to drinking, others to drugs, and some to studying.
I love this. I love the synopsis, like building up drinking, drugs, and studying. Like studying is like oh wow, things are really rough.
Yeah.
This is going to be a good movie that is another one that I haven't seen since it came out. So it'll be fun to relive. I don't want to talk too much about it though, because we got to save something for next week. So that said, let's go ahead and wrap this up. James, let the world know where they can find you online and things you're working on and all that good stuff.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at JShippy2, the number 2, and on Instagram at JEShippy, the number 2.
And Andy Rossi.
Yeah, you can find me at Just Andy Rossi, JUSTANDYROSSI.
Right. And you can find me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. We will have the next episode up every Wednesday. We go through the years, as you heard from Andy. 1993's The Program is coming up next. So make sure to watch that this weekend and Give us a listen on Wednesday. Again, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere podcasts are. Please give us a like, comment, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. Share it with your friends. That's how we grow the show. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you thought of The Bodyguard. And of course, as it comes out, I'd love to hear what you think of the program. That does it for us.